Good afternoon, and thank you for everybody joining us today for this week's episode of 4 Minute Fridays. As most of you guys probably know by now, this is the segment where we sit down with some of the people who make Christ such an awesome place to train. And today we're sitting down with Maggie Putman, the Residency Director of Simulation. And we're going to talk about all things sim with Maggie today. Before we do that, Maggie, I'm just going to have you introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Maggie Putman. I am an Oaklawn native. I actually got my start in emergency medicine as a volunteer in the ER at Christ. I was a greeter down there. So that kind of inspired me to do emergency medicine. When I went to medical school, I went to school in West Virginia. And once I started researching ER residency programs, and I heard that my local community ER has like a really badass residency program, I was kind of just really determined to get back there. So I did my residency training at Christ, and I guess I'm probably one of those lifers.
That's awesome. And Maggie, if I'm not sure if you've seen any of these, but before we get you on the clock for the actual content, we always do one Chicago themed question.
Okay.
For the viewers that may not know, Maggie is in her free time teaches Irish dance. Actually, I think was an incredible Irish dancer back in the day, correct?
I was okay.
And so we're going to keep it an Irish theme today. And so Maggie, why don't you tell the viewers kind of what your favorite Irish activity or Irish theme event is in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously love my immediate Irish dance community and friends and going to the dance competitions, but locally in Chicago, I think my favorite spot to hang out and really enjoy the Irish culture is Gaelic Park on the south side of Chicago. They've got a great pub, and there's a lot of actually Irish-born people that go out there, and trivia on Thursday nights, that sort of stuff. So it's a good time.
I'll go far more cliche. I'm actually 0% Irish, but as Maggie probably knows, I would consider myself to be a great admirer and consumer of Irish culture.
Yes.
And so I would see my favorite activity is not so much an activity, but like one of my favorite times of year, or maybe my favorite time of year, is when you get a warm St. Patrick's Day weekend, because it's like the unofficial opening to the spring and the summer. And it doesn't matter if it's like 48 degrees, as long as the sun comes out and everybody's outside and the river gets dyed, and it just feels like we survived the winter. And so I so greatly look forward to St. Patrick's Day every year. That's one of the few holidays I request off every single year. So
yeah, I completely agree. And it makes all the difference. If it's 20 degrees and snowing, it's not quite the same feeling.
Yeah, it does. And like as long as there's some sun, I feel like we've made it. So
yeah.
All right, Maggie. So today we are talking about simulation. I'm gonna put you on the clock.
Okay.
We're supposed to keep it to 4 minutes, and we usually go over, but we'll try really hard anyway.
Okay.
So why don't you just tell the viewers a little bit about kind of the simulation experience or the curriculum at Christ?
Okay. So we use sim in a variety of ways in the ED residency. Primarily, there's a longitudinal curriculum that you go through over the course of the 3 years. The residents come down in small groups during conference time on Wednesdays for an hour. And we usually cover like high stakes but low frequency scenarios. But sometimes we also cover like really important or must know bread and butter stuff, because we can really go in depth in the debrief combo. And we also do a lot of procedure training down there, starting with intern orientation. The interns get trained on like intubations, chest tubes, central lines, lumbar punctures. And then we have procedure labs throughout the year. And that's for all the residents. So some of the favorites I would say are our pacing lab and our advanced airway lab. And then this year, we have a new residency director of social simulation. That's Dr. Oyen Okabanjo. So we're starting a social simulation curriculum. And so we're really excited about that too.
And so you talked a little bit about the actual curriculum or the experience, but we just recently, I guess it's been a couple of years now, opened the new sim lab, which is kind of awesome and state of the art. So a lot of the viewers won't be able to come see it in person. Why don't you tell them just a little bit about that?
Okay, yeah, so it's really new and nice and clean looking, which is great. We have a lot of space. We have 5 sim labs. 4 of them are set up to be like various spaces in the hospital. And then the 5th one is supposed to be like a clinic room. It's a little bit smaller. We have 4 control rooms where we can control like the sim mannequins and stuff, and observe the simulation. There are 3 debrief spaces, so we don't do the debriefs usually at the bedside. We can actually go out and sit down, and in those rooms, you know, it's comfortable, tables, chairs, smart board, that sort of stuff. And then we have a pretty large multi-purpose room that we do a lot of procedure training in, but it's got a lot of different functions. So, and then we have a huge inventory space where we just keep we keep a bunch of mannequins, task trainers, and all sorts of equipment back there.
And so speaking of task trainers and equipment, the residents are constantly talking about kind of the new cool toys and devices that you guys get down there. Why don't you tell us kind of some of the newer things or favorite things that you guys have in the sim lab currently?
Probably my favorite right now is Eve, which is the ultrasound task trainer. And she's super cool because you can actually program like almost any pathology that you want that would be diagnosable on ultrasound. So now we get to incorporate like the bedside point of care ultrasound into our sim cases. I mean, the residents always are asking for bedside ultrasounds for like every patient, because, you know, if you have a critical patient, that's one of our go-tos. So I love having Eve. And another really cool task trainer, I think, is probably Pacer Man, because you can actually float a transvenous pacer into this task trainer. And our mannequins in general are like high fidelity. We've got we have several adult type mannequins, like one can deliver a baby or you can do a C-section. And we also have like a sim preemie and a newborn and sim baby and like all sorts of cool stuff. And then sometimes we create our own task trainers or like moulage, depending on the scenario. But one of my favorites was last year for our advanced airway lab. We did an angioedema tongue, which was pretty cool because that is really hard to simulate. And when you walk into the sim lab and see this huge tongue taking up the entire mouth, it kind of pushes that fear in you like you have in real life. So I thought it was really cool.
I feel like sometimes the sim lab is like a flashback to grade school because you guys bring out like silly putty and other things I haven't seen since I was a child.
Completely.
What'd you make the tongue out of? How'd you do it?
Well, actually, I saw it at a sim conference last year. So the person that had it on display there kind of gave me her recipe. But I bought this stuff from Amazon to make a mold. And then we have these materials that we make that we call like dragon skin. Basically, it kind of makes like this silicone, like smooth rubbery surface. But I had created this tongue to be a mold, and I basically filled it with like that dragon skin stuff. And then we wrapped it around the mannequin's actual tongue, and it like filled up his entire mouth. So it literally was like when you walk in the room, you see the tongue, and I felt like it had that realism or that fidelity that you get in the room when you see a huge angioedema tongue, and you're like, so it was great practice. I
can't imagine the week before if any of your family walked into your place and saw all these tongues.
Yeah, well, we did it in the sim lab, so
Perfect.
The stuff is messy, it's sticky. I'm like, we do it in the inventory room.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome, Maggie. And we're almost on time, which is great. So the last question we always ask everybody we feature on here is kind of in sticking with the theme this year, we talk about the ACMC difference, or that thing that to you made Christ such a place to train when you were a resident or to stay as an attending currently. And so what would you tell the viewers is kind of the biggest difference to you?
I think, to summarize, I would say Christ is the kind of place that literally inspires you to be a better doctor. Like I rotated there as a medical student, and I was really blown away by how amazing the residents and the attendings were. I couldn't believe like how functioning the PGY2s were already, even though it was like the beginning of the year and stuff. So I was like in awe of them at that time. And then when I matched, it was like, I can't believe I got into this place. Like I must have fooled them somehow, but all the time I was so motivated and inspired by the people that I was working with. And like, I'm like, wow, I got to keep up with these people. And now still as an attending, I'm like, the residents are so smart. They ask really great questions, especially in sim. Like I've got to really know my stuff. And then working alongside my colleagues, it's just like very inspiring. And then on top of that, it's obviously, I'm sure, it's like an extremely supportive environment. The people in the charting room with you are just fun to be with, and then they help you when you need it. You have that really sick patient, everybody comes in and wants to do what they can to help you. And so it's a super challenging place. It pushes you to be as good as you possibly can. And then your coworkers are with you and like help you get through those tough times. So I'm really lucky to have matched there and to still be working there. It's really cool.
I don't think there's a whole lot to add. I think you kind of summarized it all right there. So I'll let us finish on that note. Maggie, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. And if anybody has any other questions about simulation, they can reach out to any of us. We're happy to help. So
for sure. Thanks
Maggie.
Bye.